Now each of those tanks is also completely surrounded by a concrete dike. That dike has 110% of the tank storage capabilities. So were there to be a crack or a leak in one of them, all the oil would remain cooled up right around the tank itself. Now you can see a large smokestack up there on the hillside. That's the main power plant for the facility. It is a diesel burning power plant. Right now it operates at just about 40% of its total capacity. 3 smokestacks to the right of it, the vapor recovery system. During the loading process, vapors collect in the tanks and in the tankers, and they actually transfer them up there to those smokestacks to dispose of them. Even burn a small amount for power in the larger smokestack as well. Now just down and to the right from those 3 smaller smokestacks, you can see a large red and white radio tower. That's Alyeska OCC, or Operations Control Center. And from that facility, they can control the flow of oil at any of the pump stations between here and Prudhoe Bay, stop it and resume it as necessary. Now there's 4 loading berths over there. They're actually numbered 1, 3, 4, and 5 from left to right. They'd originally intended to build a berth 2 where that clump of trees is there against the shoreline, but found it a little too deep to drive pilings and decided to just stick with the 4. You can see a tanker, the Denali, I believe, over there at berth 5. And berths 4 and 5, really the only 2 that get used these days. Those are the only 2 the larger tankers can fit at. Also the only 2 equipped with that vapor recovery system. And those are the 2 that most ships tie up at. Now, all the oil that does leave is bound for U.S. ports. A majority of it goes down along the west coast of the United States, places like Anacortes, Washington, Cherry Point, Washington, Long Beach, California, and Valencia Harbor near San Francisco. And, well, just before a couple weeks ago, we were averaging about 35 tankers a month, just a little over 1 a day. Oil production was just under.
Pretty fast.
You can see these guys kind of wrestling around, and well, the sea otters for the most part seem pretty fidgety this morning, so we're probably not going to spend too much more time here. But just kind of pass these guys by on the left-hand side real fast.
Twins over there. Coming toward you.
pretty neat propulsion system on it called a cycloidal drive. It almost looks like a couple of egg beaters hung down in the water right amidships at the vessel, and they can push it forward or backwards at the same speed and side to side at a pretty good clip. Also, looking off the right, just about 2 o'clock off the side of the boat, peeking out over the top of a couple of green hills, you can see a little sliver of ice over there. That's actually a small tidewater glacier called Shoop Glacier, and probably the first glacier we're going to see on the trip today. Out in the open, walking along the rocks or on a beach or up in a meadow for you to see them. Once they see a rock, they side help immediately. But oftentimes it's the passenger looking out the side of the road or back behind us. They're wandering along. And if you see something like that, as long as it's got 4 legs and not 2, don't hesitate about letting me know. Always stop, turn around, and go see what it is that you saw. Prince William Sound is saltwater, so we are affected by the tides. We have what are called semi-diurnal tides here. It means we got 2 high tides, 2 low tides a day. And for the most part, the average tidal change just about 10 to 12 feet. Every once in a while, a larger set will roll through, about 18 or 19 feet of change. But it doesn't happen really all that often. Now, you can already see some of the intertidal zone off the left, all that orange-brown stuff there on the rocks. Actually a type of kelp called popweed. Once we get up here a little further, I should see some black clumps. Those are blue mussels, a lot of white dots, those are barnacles. And up near the top, there's sort of a dark stain on the rocks. That's actually a lichen that grows right in the splash zone. It just requires a little fresh air, salt water, and sunlight to grow. And since we're going to get into the fog here, it means we got to blow the foghorn. So if you're out on the bow, every 2 minutes, it's going to make a little bit of a louder noise. But I'm afraid I can't give you all that much warning. But it shouldn't be too unbearable out there anyway. You can just see his nose starting to come into view. Pretty soon his hair and his chin. I usually don't really like to talk about it because I think it's pretty extraneous, but Susan gets mad at me when I don't. She's a little bit of a... That was the foghorn, guys. She's a little bit of a flower child, and she thinks it looks exactly like Bob Dylan, but I'm not sure I really see the resemblance. It just goes to show you that if you come out here often enough, you start to see things like that just about everywhere you look. And for the most part, Prince William Sound is pretty deep. Most of this area is scoured out by the glaciers during the last ice age. Average depth about 1,200 feet. We're in a bit of a shallow spot right now, just about 60 feet of water. But there's a lot of places today where you can be almost next to the shoreline and still be in well over 300 or 400 feet of water at times. And some of you probably wondering just how these trees manage to grow out of the solid rock like that. Not really all that much soil out here. Most of the rock's covered in a thin vegetative layer called muskeg, and that provides just enough purchase for those trees to plant their roots and start to grow up. But once we get past Entrance Island out here, we're going to be picking up some speed, and then we'll be in the Valdez Narrows and working out towards the Valdez Arm.
Hey, Tiff.
You got your regular camera?
Smile, wave.
Cal, did you get it? Ay. No.
We're going to back up here, try to spin it around a little bit and see if maybe we can put them on the right side for just a sec for the people that didn't get to see. Looking off the right of the boat, a couple of things to talk about here. The first is, most of you probably see that large waterfall flowing down there. That's called Anderson Falls. And most of that water comes from snowmelt and the meltwater from Anderson Glacier, a small a small alpine or hanging glacier located up above the waterfall. And you can see quite a few small boats out here today fishing for those silver salmon. This time of year, this whole area literally choked up with small boats. And you see some pretty crazy things out here floating around. Last year, I'm pretty sure I saw some guy in a cardboard box with an outboard attached to the back of it. But I haven't seen him yet this year, so I'm not sure if he made it all right or not. But just about anything that floats out here fishing for these fish this time of year. We'll channel just about in half. Just a half a mile from that rock on our right to the shoreline on our left. And this was really the only area that concerned them when they started talking about bringing all those large tankers through here. Half a mile of water might seem like a lot for a boat our size to get around in, but if you can imagine a 1,000-foot long oil tanker, 200 feet wide, it's a bit more of a narrow shot for those guys. And they actually discussed quite a few ways to try and get rid of that thing. Someone actually suggested strapping a large amount of explosives to the top of it and blowing it up, but they really couldn't guarantee that it would clear off enough to allow those larger ships to transit over freely. And in the end decided it would be a little safer just to pour that concrete on top of it so it was visible at all stages of the tide cycle and mark it with that marker and light. And since then haven't really had too much of a problem in the area.
An iceberg?
So we're just coming by Point Fremantle here off the right, and were we to make a little right-hand turn, we'd be headed up into Columbia Bay to take a look at Columbia Glacier.
Great story about that.
What did they say to you?
And right now that boat's making about 37 knots, which is a little, just under 2.5 times how fast we're going. And it's capable of traveling between two of the communities in Prince William Sound in just about 2 to 2.5 hours. Another little sea otter out here swimming around off the left as well. Also hollows out sea caves in the rock at times. Get pretty excited about it at times. And there's a horn puffin here coming up. We'll turn the boat here just for a second to kind of pass by him on the right-hand side. And once we leave the sea lines, we might head over to a place called Cave Point and see if we can find a few of these birds sitting out on the water. And that guy actually just took off out in front of the boat. But you can start to see some brown lumps spread throughout the rocks, but the main majority of them going to be up here around the corner a little further. Now, these animals are stellar sea lions. If you're familiar with the animals up and down the west coast of the United States, you might be familiar with the California sea lion. And they're really pretty similar. The main difference is in size. Stellar sea lions get quite a bit bigger. Big males get to be 13 feet in length, weigh almost 2,400 pounds. Females a little smaller, just about 700 or 800 pounds. And Point Bullhead here, this is a haul-out area. It's not a rookery. No mating of these animals takes place, at least from what we've seen. Most of that happens in locations further to the south and the west from where we're at right now. Now, we actually a pretty good-sized group of puffins here in the water up ahead of us, and we're going to kind of cruise right by them simply because we got to go that way anyway. But it looks like the majority of these ones are going to be tufted puffins. And if you really want to see one, I'd suggest heading down to the bow, but you might get a look off the side as well.
And they're so fun. Well, there's the other part. That's so Wait, the big underpart?
Joe, you get a picture of that?
Some of them think that it's the growth of the pollock fishing industry out in the Bering Sea has created too much competition between the fishermen and the sea lions for one of the sea lions' main food sources out there. Other people seem to think that it's increased predation by orca or killer whales that's caused the decline in numbers. But either way, not too sure. Thrown a lot of money at the problem and not having too much luck finding out just why they are declining. Here in Prince William Sound, southeastern Alaska, numbers are doing all right. But from Seward on out to the Aleutian chain, they've actually been on the endangered species list for just about the past 8 or 9 years. Now, these animals actually here at Point Bullhead year-round. It's a pretty good spot for them. In the summertime, when there's sunlight every once in a while, the southern-facing rocks get a lot of that sunlight. Also, pretty shallow off here. We're just in about 57 feet of water right now, and that tends to concentrate a lot of feed in the area for them. These guys feed mainly at night. They'll eat just about anything they can get their mouth around, but for the most part, diet consists of things like fish and squid. And they're usually up here in the morning and afternoon, bathing themselves on the rocks or arguing amongst each other. And once evening rolls around, they'll work a little offshore, see if they can find some food. When we're out here at Point Bullhead, always a good idea to look up. I'm not sure if you can see all of the headland up there today, but it is pretty impressive. Rises almost 1,700 vertical feet from the water's edge. And we'll just sit here for, I don't know, about 20 or 30 more seconds, then flip the boat to the other side to see if we can get another look at these animals.
them?
And don't call them. Excuse me, please. Oh, sorry.
Jumped at the other guy.
And if you're outside, you probably are able to hear them. If you're lucky, you might be able to catch a whiff of how nice they smell every once in a while when the wind is blowing the right way. And you can see they don't really come in too many colors. Most of the darker ones up there on the rocks actually wet animals. A lot of them just that blondish color, and they'll all kind of be that blonde when they start to dry off. So.
What? Oh, we're right. Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
They seem like they're trying to stake out their territory, don't they?
So it's that white, the one that looks kind of very white, which is one that looks extremely white. And the one right on the edge where that one is, the one right there.
Yeah.
We're going to get turned here, head on over to a place called Cave Point to see if we can find a big group of puffins sitting out in the water, and it looks like there's a couple different rafts of them up ahead of us.